Three companies you've probably never heard of own everything you buy, everything you use, and everything you depend on to survive. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Combined, they manage $20 trillion in assets. That's larger than the GDP of China, larger than the entire U.S. federal budget for 13 years. $20 trillion controlled by three companies. And here's what that $20 trillion buys them. They're the largest shareholders in Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla, Exxon, Chevron, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, McDonald's, Disney, Comcast, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and 90% of all companies in the S&P 500. Read that again, 90%. They don't just own shares in these companies. They are the top three shareholders in almost every major corporation in America, which means they control everything. The food you eat, the technology you use, the medicine you take, the energy you consume, the banks you borrow from, the media you watch. All of it flows through three companies. But here's where it gets truly insane. These three companies own each other. BlackRock's largest shareholder is Vanguard. Vanguard's largest investments include BlackRock. State Street's top shareholders are Vanguard and BlackRock. They own each other in a closed loop that makes Rockefeller's Standard Oil Trust look primitive. This is monopoly perfected. Not one company controlling 90% of one industry like Standard Oil controlled oil. Three companies controlling 90% of all industries simultaneously. And they own competing companies. They own Coke and Pepsi, Boeing and Airbus, Ford and GM, Pfizer and Moderna. There's no competition. There's the illusion of competition. But the same three shareholders control both sides. And you cannot escape them. Everything you buy, they profit from. Every transaction you make, they own a piece of. Every stock you invest in, you're making them richer. Every choice you think you're making, you're choosing between options they control. I'm going to show you exactly how much these three companies control, who actually owns them, how they use cross-ownership to form an unbreakable monopoly, why regulators do nothing, and most importantly, why you cannot escape the system they've built. Because this isn't theory. This isn't speculation. This is documented in SEC filings, shareholder reports, and public records. The largest wealth concentration in human history is happening right now, and it's invisible to almost everyone. Let me start with the first company, BlackRock. Because this is the most powerful financial institution on earth. BlackRock manages $10 trillion in assets. $10 trillion? That's larger than the GDP of every country except the United States and China. Larger than Japan, Germany, and the UK combined. This is not a bank. This is not a hedge fund. This is an asset manager. They manage money for pension funds, insurance companies, governments, and individuals through mutual funds and ETFs. BlackRock was founded in 1988 by Larry Fink. Fink was a bond trader at First Boston who got fired after losing $100 million in a bad interest rate bet. He started BlackRock with $5 million and a focus on risk management. The company's first product was a mortgage-backed securities analysis system. This was the foundation of what would become Aladdin. Aladdin is BlackRock's risk management system. It stands for Asset, Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network. And here's what makes Aladdin terrifying. It doesn't just manage BlackRock's $10 trillion, it manages $21 trillion in total assets. Insurance companies, pension funds, central banks, sovereign wealth funds, they all use Aladdin to assess risk and manage portfolios. This means BlackRock's software controls the risk assessment for over $21 trillion in global assets. When Aladdin says an asset is risky, trillions in capital avoid it. When Aladdin says an asset is safe, trillions flow into it. BlackRock controls not just what to buy, but how risk itself is calculated. They are the operating system of modern finance. Now let me show you what BlackRock owns. They are the largest shareholder in Apple. 7.6% ownership worth $238 billion Microsoft, 7.6% worth $251 billion Amazon, 6.2% worth $122 billion Alphabet, which is Google, 7.5% worth $142 billion Tesla, 5.9% worth $48 billion Meta, which is Facebook, 7.7% worth $78 billion Nvidia, 7.7% worth $97 billion. That's $976 billion in just 7 tech companies. BlackRock controls nearly $1 trillion in big tech alone. But it's not just tech. In energy, ExxonMobil, 8.2% worth $38 billion Chevron, 8.6% worth $18 billion ConocoPhillips, 9.1% worth $13 billion Pharmaceuticals, Pfizer, 8.4% worth $11 billion Johnson & Johnson, 8.8% worth $38 billion Merck, 7.9% worth $9 billion Moderna, 5.3% worth $4 billion. In banking, JP Morgan Chase,